hope you're ready for this.
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn. Hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 22nd episode of Trollin HGC, a Heroes of the Storm podcast focused on esports, a member of the Trolls.gg Entertainment Network. I'm your host, LiQuid, and I'm joined today, as usual, by Bahgz. How's it going, man?
What up, man? This is exciting.
It is exciting. You know why? We have two guests on the show tonight. We have... Wait, I lost my place. We have Roll20's manager, Charles, also known as Yip Boss, which is what I will probably call you all night, man, and... Ooh. Trent, how are you guys doing?
What's up, dude? I'm so excited to talk about roster changes. I love this season. It's my favorite time of the whole year. And we get to talk about it until someone closes down the stream, because I will talk the entire night about it.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure for those of you joining us for the first time, this show will probably go long. We're usually an hour and a half. It's going to be tight tonight. It's going to be tight tonight. How you doing, Yip Boss?
I'm good, man. Just relaxing. Have the couple days off for the holiday. And
then you're not traveling, right? You're in
town. Home. I'm not going to China, so I don't got to leave. They all leave on Friday or Thursday. I think they leave on Thanksgiving. So no, I'm staying here in Chicago while they travel.
That's rough though, leaving on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But as their manager, how are you going to get them bottles of water while they're on the other side of the world?
I've got robots that I'll send with them, and then they'll...
Sweet.
Yeah.
What can Brown do for you?
Robots is a very real thing. I could see that working out pretty well. All right, so the big news that we're going to talk about is Rosterpocalypse. But before we jump into that, I want to thank our Patreons over at patreon.com/TrollsGG. We share that with the Nexus Trolls, and we use that to cover anything and everything that we give back to the community. So if you want to throw us some money that way, we would greatly appreciate it. We use that to buy t-shirts and these little sunglasses we gave away at BlizzCon. So looking to do something even more fun next BlizzCon. So
wait, you guys gave away sunglasses?
We did, and I looked for you during, because I didn't have any with me at Con Before the Storm, which was my mistake, except for the ones I was wearing. And then I didn't see the rest of like HGC, like during the, because I stayed at the stage the whole time, and I looked around, and yeah, I'm sorry, man. I still got a pair though. I got like 100 pairs of the thing left.
I actually took some home. I have some here.
Right, I have a bunch of them. I'll get you a pair. I'll get. You know what? I will get you enough for the whole team, and then some.
Ooh, sweet.
So yes, definitely.
New partnership. Trolls
I will
GG.
definitely take care of that, man. Not a problem. Not a problem. All right, so let's. You guys want to jump into this?
Let's do it.
All right. We are going to start EU first, and then we're going to jump into NA. So just so everybody's aware, EU, NA, we're going to stop. We're going to discuss each change as we go because, man, there are a lot of changes. So let's start with Diamond Skin, losing Chris, Sport Billy, and Nethernal. Yeah. You're a bottom of the number 7, I guess, in EU, and you lose 3 players. That can't feel good.
To be fair, so this is kind of part of the thing that's we were hoping that all of the changes would be announced today so that we actually know all of the teams. But Diamond Skin's going to be an interesting one because they've got Nande and Wolfjo are pretty solid players. So it depends on who they can get from other teams before we can really evaluate where Diamond Skin's going to end up, because every other team was changed so much.
Well, and that is the challenge that we have right now, right? You know, we only got the changes that have been announced. They haven't all been announced yet, which is really frustrating, I think, not just to viewers, but to like people like us that talk about this stuff.
Means we get to do it again next week,
right? Like, there's so many changes that haven't actually come out yet. It's like, really?
It's kind of depressing because like we're right up to the we're right to the limit right now, and there's still, like, I've got the cheat sheet here, and there's, of the 7 teams that could make changes, only 3 have finalized the rosters for next year. Like, we don't know who Trick dropped, if they dropped anyone at all, and what they're going to run out there for 2018. We don't know who Zealots picked up. Diamond Skin, which is like, again, like you said, the team finished 7th, right? They were a Crucible team, and dropping 3 players, 2 of them going to LiQuiud. Like the big 3 already picked up, not including Expert, but the big 3 already like finalized their rosters for next year. So Diamond Skin, a team that doesn't have an org, probably not attracting any big name players, like going to be picking up players that are, either just, I don't want to say like recycled, but, either recycled players or someone from the open division. It looks bad. It's like, maybe looking at the Crucible again. That's my thought on it.
So to be fair on that though, losing 3 players on a bottom team, they can take the risks now on open players that were on previous teams like Good Guys, or I think what was the other one. But they can take those risks now and not really care too much.
Bushido.
Right, yeah, Bushido, all those guys that have been in the scene for quite a while.
Right.
And they'll have the drive to compete and take risks in games as well.
That's a good point. Like they could take the league by storm. Surprise a lot of people.
Right. I mean, we were supposed to be the 8th place team all year, and we surprised people. And that's kind of what it takes, is to be underestimated to the point where you're able to take control and win games.
So you and Freedom, and you both both showed NA what's up.
Right. So. Well, and the other thing I would say is you have an advantage having your tank and support players still there.
Is that who's staying on?
Yes.
Diamond Skin too? Yeah. I think that synergy means a lot, definitely.
Right. And so, I'm not trying to downplay, just jam 3 DPS in there, you'll be fine, whether it's a flex or what have you. But the synergy between tank and support is so important that keeping those 2 together, you should be able to upgrade your roster at that point, even if you're taking a chance on open division team for players. So
is it bad that I already finished one?
We haven't said Rosterpocalypse like once, and I'm like halfway through my first one, so no, I'm just rolling with it too, man.
It's gonna be a good show.
All right.
So Zealots
lost 2 players, Grant Paqueta and Poik. I loved watching Poik play on that game, playing that game. So that's a bummer to me. Zealots was like one of my favorite EU teams. Fnatic being my favorite. I love Breeze, and I came to love that entire team. But Zealots was like who I was cheering for, is always the underdog. So
I think that's similar to like a Superstars, right? They get good players, and then they do really well or decently well, and then those good players get stolen.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same situation with Zealots.
Yeah,
that's pretty much always going to be the case for the lower teams, especially until there's more open flow between regions. Like you're going to see teams rise up, a couple of players surprise, and then teams that are more established and more attractive will take those players and put them in a better situation. I mean, it's kind of like it's literally the career path. There's a guy that I mentor who's a professional player in Paladins. Who they just had a LAN this last weekend, and they were the 2nd best team in North America. So woo! But literally, what I've told him is, you have to care about you and your career, because in esports you're not guaranteed a long career. So you kind of have to use your teammates to trade up into better situations,
right?
Because there's only so many good situations in an esports league, especially a smaller esports league like Paladins or like Heroes. So if you're somebody like Poik, who you were an open division player, you qualified, and then you fought with Zealots real hard to stand out, and then you get an offer, you'd be crazy not to take that offer to join an established organization like Dignitas, who actually pays everybody and is not going to be going anywhere.
Well, right? And I guess the only thing I would add to that is Mopsio's in chat. Maybe he wants to go ahead and tell us what they're doing, since they did
spoils
today.
On the chopping block.
Yeah, Mopsio, I'm mad at you, dude. You ruined my whole day. Like, we're gonna announce a thing, and then no.
The different way to look at it is, if these guys want to continue to build the team that they're on, now that there's the team ownership aspect, they could, build that team, have a piece of it, and then at some point essentially sell that spot if it becomes worth enough money.
Right. That's the question, right? Like, what does that spot end up being worth long term?
Right. And right now there's there's too much speculation.
Wait,
nothing's really set in stone.
Now Mopsio is teasing that they're upgrading big time, but he's not going to tell us with who. Come on, man. Come on. You can't halfway spoil it. That's not how this show works. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see.
Why is he got to at me? I haven't said anything yet.
Maybe because you're the one being quiet in the whole conversation.
I tweeted at him earlier, hoping he'd get the results out before we went live. Honestly, looking at the Zealots changes now, I thought like with Bakery retiring, I thought for sure Grand Paquete was going to dig for sure, but it turns out that is not the case.
Oop.
So, spoiler alert.
We'll get to it.
All right. Well, I mean, since we're getting to it, we can not do that one, but talk about Team LiQuid's roster changes. that was rough. All right. Blumby and Darkmock both left. I actually agreed with Reddit here, which is maybe a surprise, maybe not.
Pretty rare.
That's
Right?
dangerous.
Darkmock was the piece that needed to be replaced. Blumby kind of surprised me, but they're being replaced by Sport Billy and Eternal. Thoughts?
So they've, I think it was Sport Billy who came out and mentioned it in the Reddit thread that he's actually going to be playing the tank role. He did do that really late in the season for Diamond Skin, and he did pretty well at it. And Eternal will be playing replacing Darkmock as the melee flex. I almost wonder because they both came from Diamond Skin if they were like a package deal. I mean, I don't have any idea, but it was just something I thought was curious. So, and then when LiQuiD announced that they were dropping Blumby, and then I heard that Bad Benny was a free agent off of Expert. I thought for sure Bad Benny was, he did end up moving to a big time org, but I thought this was where he was going to land. It just seemed like the puzzle pieces fit there. Right. Didn't happen though.
Right.
So, what do you guys think?
Yeah. LiQuiD is going to be an interesting one because like they were such a strong team, but honestly, like compared to Fnatic and Dignitas, their players didn't stand out quite as much. It was really more that they just kind of worked together as a whole. So, but obviously that hasn't been working in 2017. So it'll be really interesting to see how shaking things up kind of reignites the passion of the players to work hard and prepare, or to change up situations, to role swap. Just my only thing is like, as a general rule, I have found, and Charles, feel free to completely disagree with me since you've watched stuff more closely than I have. I, as a general rule, don't have a ton of faith in anyone swapping into a warrior tank position. I think Diamond Skin even went back to Nande towards the end of the year, like in the relegation matches, if I remember correctly. So anytime somebody's moving into a tank position, I just generally assume it's going to go poorly until they prove me otherwise. So for that reason, I have concerns about the new LiQuiD roster.
I mean, I agree because the tank player has to have the most knowledge about every single hero. Yep. And positioning and engaging, disengaging, which takes a lot of time to learn. Justin is phenomenal at all of those things, and he puts a lot of time into it. But he's also been a tank player from the very beginning. So,
right. I mean, those are the things I worry about too. Whenever you're swapping someone into the tank, that's why I'm happy with Diamond Skin. Their tank and their support player are still the ones that are around. It takes, not only does it take time to swap into that role, but then it also takes time to build the connection with your support player, because like those two have to be on the same page. The support player has to know when I'm going in. It has to understand that. It has to be ready to pre-cleanse if need be. Like there's so many things that are so important for the tank player and the support player to be on the same page for that. Swapping someone into tank and then saying, all right, cool, learn how to tank and play the tank role, and also build this rapport with our support player so that you guys can like make things happen. Like it's rough to do.
I mean, I guess the only counter argument I would have, and I pulled up the Master League stats real quick. Sport Billy did have, I guess, a decent win rate, and Diamond Skin did look a little bit better towards the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in let's see, Group Stage 2, Phase 2 of HGC Europe, you only got, I mean, it's a really tiny sample size for what it's worth, but, you know, 75% win rate on ETC. It's kind of too small to use, honestly, but one match on Stitches, one match on Diablo where he won, lost on Johanna. But I don't know.
Losing on Johanna is like the hallmark of a mediocre tank player.
I mean,
like, literally, that's one of the reasons that I think Fury is such a good tank player, is because Tempo could win with Johanna. And, like, that's one of the reasons that we've seen, like, Calf struggle lately, is because as Johanna has rose up in the meta and the meta changed, like, that was not an option that any team that Calf was on ever had.
Right.
And I feel like that's one of those things that you can look at when you're trying to evaluate tank players, is because Johanna is such that, like, just kind of almost there tank. Like, she doesn't quite have all the tools.
Right.
And the tank players that are really exceptional are the ones that can actually have an impact with Johanna.
Yeah. I could see that.
That's fair. So we'll see. LiQuiud needed to make a change. They had the longest tenured roster in HGC last year. And obviously, come Phase 2, it wasn't working anymore. So something needed to change. It's kind of sad. But, you know, all good things come to an end. It was a really strong roster for, you know, they went through several, they were My Insanity, then they were Misfits, and then they became LiQuiud. I don't know. They fell behind the curve. So we'll see if these are the changes that they needed to make.
Okay. Excuse me, Dignitas.
Yes.
Bakery retiring. Let's just take a moment and talk about Bakery retiring. Because I
wish we had some, like, farewell music to play right now.
He'll be back.
I know Trent had some things to say about how that was going to drastically affect EU as a whole.
Yeah, so Caldor gave me some flack for that article. It's the most recent one on my blog, if you take a look at it, which I now have TrentEsports.com, so I'm all official in junk.
Yes.
But basically the point of that article was just to kind of illustrate that in a world where everyone wants to keep their rosters the same forever, something like one player retiring literally affects every team and forces them to evaluate stuff. Obviously, before Bakery announced his retirement, most teams already had most of their decisions made. Like, LiQuiud knew who they were going to drop the day the season ended, probably 2 weeks before the season ended, I would imagine. I don't know that for sure, but that would be my guess. That said, it's a huge thing, especially now that we know that they didn't pick up a support player. Like, that changed so much within the framework. Like, as we get to the rest of the teams, moving Zelia to support creates such different needs for other teams. Like, if Bakery retired and they picked up Grand Paquete, it would be a completely different. We'd be looking at a completely different Europe than we're going to have now as a result of where Wubby went, where Zelia went, where Gran ended up going. Like, all of these things, because Bakery retired and Dignitas chose to resolve that hole the way that they did, it literally changed the framework of how Europe was going to look this year.
Yeah, it completely set off a different chain of events.
I hate the word retiring in esports, because especially, I don't even know how old Bakery is. Navi, help me out with that. I think he's probably like 20. Retiring
young.
Is probably an awful word to use, but I also want to know if that was by his choice or if he was getting kicked so he didn't know what to do. It's just a weird situation, but I think that he'll probably take the 6 months to figure out what he really wants to do, and if a team will have him after coming back, then so be it. I don't think that he'll get on a top team when he comes back, because choosing to retire is kind of like a kick in the ass to everyone else, saying, "Hey, I've already exceeded all possible growth, and I can't get any better. You know, I've done everything I could do, and I'm out."
So
I think that he'll
go ahead. Sorry.
I just think they'll come back and he'll get on probably like a bottom tier team and maybe work his way back up.
So, yeah, I'd imagine he'll be back.
Nabby's confirming in chat he is 20. Nabby, man, anytime you want to come on and tell us why that happened, we'll be happy to hear it. Mopsio also pointing out Zelia used to be in a top rating guild in WoW, which, you know, can mean you have mechanical skills to deal with being a support player.
Well, and he was a healer in that.
Right.
So that's the big point, is that he used to be a healer, and there's a different mindset to healing than there is to being an assassin player or being a tank player. It'll be interesting to see how much that translates. But I mean, we saw Tomster acquitted himself pretty well as a support. Like, he didn't set the world on fire, and obviously the results for Noventic/Lag Force weren't incredible, but Tomster transitioned into the role pretty reasonably, and Zalia's got good enough mechanics that I think he will be fine in the role. But I don't think it'll be an issue. It's he's got a lot of time. It's a much easier. He's already role swapped, so he was as far as I remember, he was a ranged carry before he went to Dig. So he had to transition to a new team, transition to playing professionally, and transition to a new role coming into HGC. He's got 2 months to just do one of those three things this time around.
Well, that's the key, right? They have 2 months.
I think he's got plenty of time. I mean, he might not light the world on fire right away, but I'm sure, give it enough time and he'll be great. But both Buds and Collusion were not support mains coming into this season, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And they ended up being probably top three between both of them. I would
agree with top three.
Yeah. Top three supports in NA.
Yeah.
To get my first League of Legends reference in, since so many people hate when that happens, and we're going to do it a lot tonight, so strap it in. But there was a player named Afromu who plays for Counterlogic Gaming. I think is still their support player, but he used to be one of the best AD carries in North America, like far and away. And then he transitioned to support and became one of the absolute best support players in North America, and still basically every season has been one of the best support players in the region. And I think there's a advantage that you have coming from a different role going into a support position, because you have the perspective of what people in that role want from a support and what people in that role on the other side struggle with when a good support is playing against them. So like when Afromu, he did a big speech talking about the support role in League of Legends and about how for him, the supports that were hard to deal with were supports that just created a lot of pressure in lane, by positioning really well, by landing their skill shots. And so that's what he focused on as a support, rather than playing passive and just like actually supporting his AD carry. He focused on creating pressure and poking out the opponent AD carry. And that's what made him so good. So I think that's one of the things that we can see from these players that transition from a damage focused role into a support role, is that they know what ranged players need on support, and they know what good support play on the opposite side does to them, so they know kind of how to transition and create those situations for their team.
Right. Okay. Let's see. We still have a couple other things to talk about with Dig. Mene was traded for Wubby. This surprised
kind of a big deal.
The hell out of me.
Did either of you guys expect that?
I mean, I knew about it.
Besides knowing about it.
I didn't. I expected changes just because you can't stay a team forever. And
right.
Especially not winning the whole thing. Even if they did win the whole thing, I think they'd still have made the change.
Yeah.
Because all of these changes, especially teams that were at BlizzCon, were talked about prior to even going.
Right.
And I know that Schwimpy had alluded to issues in one of his interviews, so I'm sure that all of this was done ahead of time.
I'm sure it was. It had to be, right? Like, you guys didn't have time after BlizzCon to try to figure all this out. It had to be done before BlizzCon. which is probably my biggest problem with. Yeah, right. Like, how are you supposed? Yeah, hey, go win the biggest championship of the year. But oh, by the way, you already know that you might be traded right afterwards because we had to talk about it so early. Like,
I mean, that's some of that is. I mean, this is a topic that we can do on another show of like the way that Blizzard handles the off season.
I think that's later in the show.
Oh yeah, I mean, we can definitely get into that. But I think it's a little bit overblown, and Charles, you can probably speak to this better than me, but like that's part of being a professional athlete. Like, you're most likely not going to be on the same team next year. That's true in football, baseball, basketball, tennis, like whatever it is.
Okay.
You just kind of have to know that that's part of it, and next season you commit yourself to this new team and this new people. I mean, no team lasts forever. No team lasts more than a year, right, for the most part. Like the Patriots win every game in a season and almost win the Super Bowl, and then don't keep the same team next year.
Right.
So going into a championship, like, I mean, you look at Roll20 at the midseason brawl. Like, they announced before the midseason brawl even started that Yoda was being replaced, and the dude played the best tournament he's ever played in his life. Like, right, that's just what it takes to be a professional player.
He was put on a stage for tryouts, right?
I mean, that's the way to look at it, though, is why would you throw? You know, like, if you've got the biggest stage in the world to show, hey, any other team, if you want me, like, this is how well I play.
This is what I can do.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. All right.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing they did is they signed Polk. So they picked him up from Zealots. What I really liked about this move is similar to how they picked up Zelia. It's another, it's just Dignitas showing that they're willing to pick up, guys from smaller teams. They're not just, recycling the same players from like the top 3 teams. Now, granted, Polk did get to play with Zealots Zealots all year, but so it's not like picking someone up off of Open Division team, but it's still it's a nice, I don't know, it's nice to see them continue to pick up another up and coming player.
Right.
Okay. Polk's really good. Like, yeah, the Dignitas roster is really good. If Zelia is a competent support, that's a really good roster.
I mean, if you look at it, you have to find people that have room to grow, right? If you pick the players that K1, King Caffeine, these guys that have been around forever, they kind of are set in their ways, and it's very hard to change those type of people, right? They have their tendencies, they have their ways to play the game, and if they aren't open for improvement, then it's not worth it.
Right.
No, for sure. And like, it's kind of like you've already seen what they have. Like, this is like you said, there's potential here, right? We haven't seen the ceiling for Polk yet. We've seen him play really well, but there's potential for more.
That's like with Cure.
Right.
Same
exactly.
thing.
Exactly. So I'm gonna jump into a question from chat, and I'm gonna ask this specifically of you, boss.
Yeah.
Around Roll20, who decides which players are going to a team? Vote, organization, you.
So that's players, right? So I'll just go with the Yoda. I'll talk about Cloud later. So for Yoda, it was 4 players. All 4 players, Cloud, Buds, Justin, and Priz, had decided on it. And it was for whatever reason, but they had made the majority decision. Even if it was 3 out of 5, that's what it would have been. And that's just how it goes. I mean, if you have majority vote, you kind of own the team.
Okay.
Now, with the team ownership going on, the team is supposed to manage the roster, but what some players have done to negotiate is, okay, you're the team owner, but we want control of the roster, right? Because it doesn't make sense for the organization to manage the roster, because then over time they'll just recycle players off until they have no original players, then they'll fully own the roster.
Right. Okay. Cool. There you go,
Interesting.
Chat. Good question.
I'm really glad to hear that players have thought of that and are and are negotiating that, because that is something that as an organization owner, I would fight hard to maintain control of the roster so that I could bring in a coach and have me and the coach make all of the roster decisions, because that's my brand. That's an influence I have to affect requirements for stream time and requirements for, organizational, like how you behave and all that kind of thing. And if I don't have complete roster control, then I'm kind of limited in my ability to run my organization. So it'll be really interesting to see how that evolves over the next year as roster changes do happen and as new organizations come in or old organizations sell their spots. It'll be really interesting to see what happens.
Right. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I think ultimately that's probably where we're going to end up if this
100%. Because everybody's going to be gone eventually. Like every single player that's playing now, 5 years from now, they're not going to be playing. Like that esports, you get 3 years and you're basically done most of the time.
Tell that to Hasuabs.
To be fair, the game's only been around for 3 years, so if he retires next year, then I'm still correct.
Right. Was it today? I think it was today. He tweeted out some like stuff he found in the attic from like 2003, some like global cyber game stuff. I was like, just like,
that's about right.
Good for him though. I guess what I want to ask you guys before we move on to the next team is, where do you think the Dignitas roster is how that's gonna shape up? How do you think they're gonna fare next year in HGC Europe?
Charles?
I think that they'll actually do pretty well. Only because they have veteran players that know how to push the limits, right? So they know how to scrim, they know how to win harder, and they know how to optimize that time. And they also have a coach that is extremely dedicated.
Shout out to Nabby. My personal take is, it kind of stinks to lose Bakery's leadership, but I think JPL will more than suffice as the captain. I'm assuming he's the captain. The way he's been, his responses on Twitter seem to indicate that. I really like the Dig roster, personally. Sure, we haven't seen it in action yet, but I think, to me personally, I think that unless, Fnatic really gels with their new roster, I think Dig might be the team to beat. We'll see, though.
Yeah, I'm thinking at Gold Club we will probably see Dignitas struggle a little bit, just because Zelia is getting used to a new role. That new teams that have role swaps historically just struggle at the start because you have to get practice. But because they're getting that practice at Gold Club, if they have the right mentality for it, I think that they will very quickly in the regular season next year become the best team in Europe.
Cool. Okay.
And just to clarify before we move on, Nabby corrected me. Snitch is actually the captain. My bad.
All right. So moving into Fnatic, Bad Benny and Mene join the roster and replace Wubby and Schwimpy. I know Bahgz felt strongly about Schwimpy leaving, but I actually felt stronger about Wubby leaving. I felt like Wubby's solo lane was on point, and really helped carry some of those games. But go ahead, Bahgz.
Reddit jumped on him real quick. You just got second place. You're second best team in the world. Why would you make changes? And listen, they're the second best team in the world. They want to be the best team in the world. That's why you make changes. It's just to nip that in the bud. And I know chat's might pop off a little bit about it. But my thing is Schwimpy was always, and maybe it's just because he's flashy and so I latch onto that. But Schwimpy always came off as the most impressive player on that team, and Wubby as well to a degree. But and what I get, I feel like Mene plays they both play the flex carry, but Mene it's a different hero pool than Schwimpy, right? So who is Quacknix going to play the characters that Schwimpy played? Who's going to play Abba or Medivh or Genji on that team? I know Quacknix can play Genji, but I haven't seen him play Medivh or Abba yet. I'm sure they all can. They're all professional players, but Schwimpy carried on those characters. And Schwimpy also played a damn good Chromie. How much of an upgrade is Mene, and what does he bring to the table that that team needed? That was my issue with it.
I think mechanically, these players are at a point where it doesn't matter as much, right? So if you pick up a mage, you can play the mage, right? Skill shots are one thing. It's more about team dynamic than it is skill, right? Can you follow macro calls? Can you follow micro? The skill level is very tiny. I mean, Korea has a little bit of an edge, but that's just because they're crazy. I don't know. They're magic. They're born with it. I don't know.
They're Koreans. Yeah, that's how it works.
I mean, you think about like Arthlon got ripped apart for that thing like a year and a half ago about like I could practice for an hour and be as good as Korea, but like he wasn't like it was a memeable thing that we all made fun of him for, but he wasn't actually wrong. Like the difference in skill between regions, between players is very, very small. Like Charles says, it's really more about fit. And like what was said in Quack's Twitlonger, which if you haven't read it, go to Quacknick's Twitter page right now and read it, because it's one of the best responses to criticism I've ever seen from a professional player in any esport. And I follow a lot of them, and I've seen a lot of pro players react to Reddit. And I think Reddit and the community is focusing way too much on hero pool, on mechanical skill, on, oh my gosh, Wubby is the best solo laner in the world. How could you get rid of him? They made the roster changes they chose to make because of things that aren't, well, we can't get rid of Wubby. He's the best solo laner ever. It's like, well, team synergy, drive, practice. I mean, to do the second League of Legends reference ever, Team Solo Mid, when they made their first huge roster change that ultimately brought in Dyrus, who Heroes of the Storm players will know as the guy that played with Roll20 for a little while. That change was made getting rid of their top laner, the Rain Man, who was easily the best top laner, the most consistent top laner with the most diverse champion pool in North America. But it was literally a difference of opinion on how to practice. Rain Man wanted to focus on playing solo queue and working on his individual mechanics and expanding his champion pool. And the rest of the team wanted to spend more of their practice time in scrims and focusing on watching replays and things like that. And literally they didn't agree on that, so they made a roster change. It had nothing to do with individual skill. Dyrus was not a better player at the time than Rain Man. It was not an upgrade in theory. But because the team then all were on the same page in their preparation, they became the best team in North America and swept every single North American competition for 2 years.
Started the TSM dynasty.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I mean, like I said, I have it written here in the notes. It just seems like the moves seem like a major risk. And I guess that's the kind of risk you have to take to become the best team in the world when you couldn't quite get it done and you came close, right?
Yeah, you'll see that every team that doesn't reach their goal is going to make changes. Just get used to that in every esport you ever follow. You will never see the same team 2 years in a row, ever.
I mean, I expected changes. I just didn't think I thought we were going to have like tweaks, minor adjustments, maybe one player move. I didn't think we were going to pull in Bad Benny and give him a brand new role and dump Schwempy and pull in Mene and I don't know.
And make all these changes that Bahgz wasn't prepared for.
I wasn't prepared.
I told you guys
you did
over and over again to emotionally prepare for this stuff.
You did. You absolutely did. I've lost count of the number of times you said in chat, you guys are not emotionally prepared for the changes that are coming. And we were not, sir. We were not. All right, so all we have left in EU is Team Expert.
Bad Benny's gone.
Bad Benny's gone. I know that crushed Fringe Average.
Yeah, because he just got him to sign that poster that his brother had, and he just got done cheering his heart out for Expert at BlizzCon. It's kind of a bummer. We still have 4 teams with undecided rosters. We have no idea what Trick's doing. Zealots teased us earlier today, and then left us high and dry.
Mopsio did apologize, though. Said it was his fault. Bad communications.
I want a personalized DM apologizing to me personally.
So
I am hurt.
So you ever seen Rosterpocalypse lately?
I've been drinking like they have, so it's okay.
I mean, if you it's probably popped off in chat a couple times. I'm having a hard time keeping up though.
Chat's going crazy right now. All right, so now we have NA going, right? So we finished EU. Obviously, leftovers can't make any changes because leftovers. They just got in via Open Division. They're not allowed to make any changes. So,
hate that rule.
I mean, I do and I don't. Like, if you just fought through Open Division and then now you're in, like, you know, I get it. I get it. I mean,
it literally puts you at a disadvantage.
Right.
Like, you're now a pro team, but you can't get in on trying to attract one of the players
former
that gets
pro players, right?
From...
The ones that just got dropped. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
You have to follow the Arcaner and the J Street route if you're going to try and do that, right? Or never mind.
But they can't get them either.
Right. I was thinking the other side of the coin. Like, if you're looking to join another team, I wasn't thinking about you're looking to pick up a pro that is now a free agent, which I totally understand. Okay. Yes, that does suck. Oh my God, cat tax. Yep, boss wins. It has been confirmed. All right, so let's talk NA. NA, we're starting with LagF, who Big E's leaving, and for all anybody knows, the whole team is just gonna poof. And
yeah, they're done.
Right, but
Yay!
nobody. It's not confirmed yet. I just
it's confirmed.
Charles just
all right,
confirmed
Charles
it.
just confirmed it. LagF is out. All right. So LagF is out.
Sorry, I had to.
It's okay, man. It's quite all right. Everybody has been saying it's the way it is, right? But nobody has actually, like, Blizzard hasn't come out and said yes, LagF is gone, right? But LagF is basically out. Imported support's coming in.
And it's the best thing that ever happened in North America.
Yeah, we'll find out. so if LagF is out, that means that Imported is in, or another open team.
Also hate that rule.
Right. So that essentially leaves, I mean, that team comes in, they either do well or do poorly. Open teams will now get any, I guess, overflow of players that don't get on teams because there's 5 whole slots missing now. So the players that have been dropped from higher teams, if they don't get a team, they'll form an open team, which essentially makes the chance of amateur players getting into the scene bigger, right? So if, say for instance, I don't even know what players to use. Whatever. HGC team player 1 gets out and forms a team like Heroes Hearth, right? And then they come in with 2 amateur players, and now we've got new blood. I think that's actually a really good thing for the scene.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I agree. We are huge supporters of Open Division and huge supporters of amateur teams making it in. Like, every year, I go into Crucible, or every phase, rather, I should say. I go into Crucible saying, okay, I can't wait to see if someone gets knocked out here. Like, I'm always rooting for the amateur teams just on principle of the whole design. Like, I want to see amateurs move up and into HGC and get that spot, right? And Heroes Hearth is a great example of it. Imported support, I was really hoping they'd win and beat LagF. I've like wanted LagF to disband for the last, like, since probably the midpoint of phase 1. Bahgz could tell you all about it. So I'm happy that they're disbanding. I'm happy that Imported support's coming in, and I'm hoping that LagF will, some of those players will find Open Division teams and make their way back in like Heroes Hearth did. That's the dream, right? So
LiQuiud, on your thing in chat, open teams can't make changes. Once they get in, they can't make changes. You said I don't think open should.
Yeah,
should
I'm agreeing with Caldor. They can't. They shouldn't be. Like, there was a couple people in chat that said you should be able to make changes or even bring a new pro player in. I don't think they should. I'm on the side of, if you win Open Division enough that you qualified to go to Crucible, and you win Crucible, that should be your roster for the first phase.
I agree. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm on that point. Like, I believe that to be the case. It is the case, and I believe it should stay to be the case. Right. I get that there's another side of the coin, and I respect that, but my personal opinion is that it should be that way. So, because
I mean, see my response in an article later this month.
Awesome. All right, that's fine. I love reading your articles. That works out. Argy has a great point. Imagine if they dropped Lauber, or imagine if like Crowan got dropped as soon as they. Well, let's use Crowan instead. First, you can't screw Lauber. Lauber's a cool guy and he's been on the show. But let's imagine they drop Crowan, right? Like poor Crowan gets booted out of GFE and then gets booted out of Heroes Hearth right after they qualify. Like, what's the world coming to, man?
You messed up.
I just don't care much about feelings. I want good teams.
Ooh.
And I want more interesting investment for sponsors.
That I definitely want more interesting investments for sponsors. All right.
Are you sure you need more beer?
Yes, I'm going through with this, man.
Rosterpocalypse. Yeah, no, we can get into that. We can get into that later.
All right. So LagF is gone. Team Freedom, Dansky and Cure are out, and they're replaced by Lutano and Yoda. I think I'm just throwing this one over to Yip Boss.
Why did you do that to Team Freedom, you jerk?
Big fish. There's always a bigger fish.
Yeah, you know.
More money, more problems.
I mean,
how do I answer that?
All right. We should explain that also with Roll20, Glaurung and Prismat are out, and Dansky and Cure are in. So
I guess we'll just cover this now. So yeah. Glau basically decided to leave the team right after midseason brawl.
Was that his decision?
That was his decision.
Wow, that early?
So he was on that path since after midseason brawl, and that was due to, I guess, interpersonal relationship stuff, role designations, I guess draft type stuff, and a lot of time and preparation that needed to be put in wasn't being done. So when we swapped roles, the motivation kind of left, right? So we had to pick up at that point and figure out how to make do for the next 6 months, or the next split.
Okay.
So that was a thing for, since midseason brawl, and then the other one was more of, hey Dansky, do you want to come play with us? And then Kira was like, hey guys, I'm looking to leave too. Can I come play with you?
Okay.
So that's kind of how it worked out. And they're both, initially we were just looking at Dansky, and he's a great player. He's a great attitude. He's a little bit of a sloth, but I think that's fine. They're both really cool guys, and they're both chill, down to earth. They're both really hardworking. So that worked out for us. Yeah, I don't really have anything else.
All right. Okay, fair enough. What about Prismat?
So Prismat is, really, really hardworking, dedicated. It's just a matter of, he's extremely critical when it comes to providing feedback. So that was like kind of a needle in the side of some of the players,
okay,
which we had tried to fix over time, and it just wasn't working out. So we weighed pros and cons of all the players and figured that we would rather have two fresh sets of eyes, fresh players to go into the new year and figure it out.
Okay, cool enough. That works. Let's jump into.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
We got to talk about these rosters a little bit more. Hold on.
All right. I just want to chime in while we're talking about my favorite team. Sorry, Charles.
No, you're good.
Team Freedom's my team, and I'm happy to see that Lutano stayed in the league. Really impressive on Even in Death. So I'm glad that he was able to stay in the league. It's nice to see Yoda going there as well. And apparently Nasmus will be switching to the solo lane role, is what Homicidal's saying. I don't know how Homicidal knows, but I'm sure all these guys talk. So to answer that question, I'm sure a lot of people had about how the roster is going to shake out. I still think, like, looking at this roster, at least on paper, and we'll see how it shakes out, I still think it's a top 3 team in NA. I mean, that's probably not saying much considering all the other teams haven't dropped the rosters yet, but they don't. I don't know. With what's left on the table, I don't know Maybe one of them will surprise us, but I still think Team Freedom will be a top 3 team, personally.
Right. Well,
any team that keeps their support and tank is promising in this game. They have a good support and tank. Lutano is very good. Yoda has shown really bright moments as an elite player. And like you said, the other rosters are such a mess that getting top 3 is probably not going to be super hard in NA this split.
At least the first phase, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, especially with imported support coming in. Like, those guys are great guys, and they're a good team, but they have now failed twice to beat a team that has been imploding for 2 years. So
feels bad, man.
I think it will be. I think it's reasonable to expect it to be another even and death situation, which is one of the reasons I have an issue with that rule. But I think this roster has good meat to it, and Lutano it'll be interesting to see Lutano on a team with a great tank and support to see what he can do, because that's a lot of, for so many players, situation matters so much, and like what pieces are around the player, especially in a game like Heroes where you literally can't carry but only so much. What pieces are around you matters so much. So having better pieces around him, we could see Lutano suddenly become one of the best players in the league.
Right.
Listen, he would have never, for what it's worth, he probably wouldn't have gotten this shot without even in death making, kind of slipping through the back door.
That's very true. Still don't like the rule.
Well, so let me ask you a question of Charles. You guys have, like, hands down, this was my favorite NA team. Close second was GFE because I absolutely love Fan. This was absolutely my wife's favorite team. Like, this was the only team she made sure to catch every game of. Like, 100%. That's why I bought her a Roll20 jersey when we were in at BlizzCon. Like, this was her team, and still should be her team for all I know. We'll see in 2018. But you guys kept adjusting, which is important. Going back to, keep your tank and your support. You kept buds. What do you think it looks like this year? You guys, 2018, you've seen some scrims. Are you guys well positioned? You just got to work out some of the, hey, we got 2 new guys on the team, and there's always a certain amount of making sure we can all work together and we all get on the same page at a certain point.
So scrims are going phenomenally. Right now it's probably us, Tempo. We haven't scrimmed GFE, so probably us, Tempo, then Freedom. Now obviously this is not with all the new changes, so everything could change. But as of right now, that's what it looks like. Scrims are definitely going well for us. Freedom did surprise us today. And Tempo has done some good things too. So we're definitely not counting anybody out. We're not underestimating anybody. We have just meshed pretty quickly.
Cool. Okay. Let's jump into Tempo Storm changes. Fury and Cawthon are out. Fan and Glaurung are in.
It's the 2004 Lakers.
Well, here's my problem. Bahgz, you probably, maybe you remember this, maybe you don't. But
they just signed Gary Payton and Karl Malone.
Right? We talked about when Fury was removed from, God, I think that was GFE way back when, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yes, and then he formed Murloc Genius with the other guys. All right. Fury got booted from GFE because I think the original excuse at the time was girlfriend and scheduling conflict. And then he gets removed from Tempo Storm for whatever reason it was. Honestly, I don't remember what they said at this point because I've probably read way too much.
They said, thanks for your time.
That's right. They said, thanks for your time. That's right. Yes.
He commented on that. He was like,
yes, he did. Well, and he said, I guess it's the tank again. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Yet again, Fury gets like, see you, son. So, like, personally, my my heart goes out to Fury because I feel like he got handled incorrectly, similar to what happened with Faye last split. Both of those I had a problem with. But that being said, this team looks incredibly strong on paper. Incredibly strong on paper.
This is a team that will get top 3 in NA with very little trouble and completely collapse at every single international event.
You're a jerk.
Like, the reason I say that is because every single member of this team now is one of the best players in North America. It's
the Stream Dream team.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are outstanding players. And it's literally the reason, like, if you watch the LagForce versus Imported games, Imported is a solid, cohesive team, but the individual components of LagForce are better players, and they're able to just out-execute Imported. And that's what I predict is going to happen to Tempo. They are going to be able to, because so many of the other rosters are making big changes or are not great because they got in because another team disbanded. This phase is going to be rough for a number of teams in North America. So because so many of these players are so individually skilled, they're going to be able to out-execute a lot of the other teams in North America and won't get punished for their lack of synergy or for any potential drafting weaknesses. But then the moment they get to games against the very best that the rest of the world has to offer, that, like we talked about before, the individual skill gap is so much smaller that it doesn't matter anymore. And so really what all that matters at an international event is your preparation, your coordination, your draft. Okay. And the other teams are going to have those 3 things over Tempo Storm. So I think that Tempo Storm is not going to be able to compete on an international stage, but they will be 2nd place or 3rd place in North America without too much trouble.
I think that they have to do what we did. We have to find their meta that works for their roles, right? So they have 3 people that have very similar roles. Now, Psalm is a lot more flexible than the other 2, but I think that if they find those roles and define them properly and they develop their own meta, they can be extremely strong. But until we see that, it's going to be a challenge.
Yes. And they do have a good coach, which should help with that. But I don't know.
It all depends on the personalities too. Like, will those new players mesh well with the new coach or the coach, and are they willing to do what's best for the team instead of being the player that wants to get all the glory, Right. Because that's what those roles are. It's the glory roles. Like, who can make the flashiest plays because it's the carry, and 2 players have to step back into the supporting, whatever, second support, whether it be Medivh, whether it be Tassadar, these roles that are not flashy. Someone has to step back and play those.
I mean, I would counter that and say Medivh can always be flashy, only because Medivh.
Right, but who plays it, right? So is it going to be Glau or is it going to be Psalm?
Oh, no, it's Glau. Sorry, Psalm.
You're going to be surprised. You're going to be surprised.
I would, Charles, I don't know if you want to comment on this, but my theory is that Glau's Medivh worked so well because Justin and Buds are gods.
Oh, yes. 100% that helped him.
I don't think it was necessarily Glau's Medivh being so amazing. It was because the synergy, like, they only were able to execute Medivh with the right tank, with the right support. Whereas I think Psalm is just a really good Medivh player. Like, Psalm is a phenomenal player. I don't think he gets to.
He's also a really good Kerrigan, it turns out, huh?
Yeah, I don't think Psalm gets to show off how good he is a lot of the time because of the way that Tempo has been constructed. If he's able to be put in more of a carry position on the new squad, I think we'll see more from. Like, I think he's a really, really good player that doesn't quite get to pop off as much as he should. And so I for that reason, I could see, depending on the team composition, it might be a thing where you first pick Medivh and then it could go to either player depending on the composition.
Right. Well, and like Lovely Hearthstone just pointed out, Psalm has already said that he's going to play Medivh if Cloud needs to play the solo laner, right? It's going to, like you said, it's going to come down to the composition, but they have 2 competent Medivh players. I guess at the end of the day, they have 2 competent Medivh players, which is important. But then you just get Medivh banned out all the time, right? Like,
especially if we go to 3 bans, which we should.
Right. I think that Medivh will be constantly banned against those teams that play him the most, especially team or Tempo. It will be banned almost every time.
Can't let either of them have Medivh, or the game just goes their way.
Until
right?
he gets, because of the high skill cap, he's not played in Hero League, so he's not tuned. I guess he is played in Hero League, but if you look at it, he does win a lot of games when in the right hands. If they nerf him slightly, whatever it may be, I don't know what he needs, but it's just that in the right hands, he's destructive, for sure.
All right, I want to take a question from chat real quick, and that's from Mango Dreamer. Yep, boss, do you guys feel the need for coaches? I think this is really around NA as a whole, but it can be NA as a whole or Roll20. It's up to you.
I think coaches are great as long as the players respect whoever the person is coaching. There's no use in throwing money at somebody if it's going to be more of an effort to assimilate the coach than it would be to just have the person there.
Right.
And that's kind of why we haven't picked up a coach yet. We have a pretty good structure of how things are done. And until we, I guess, hit a plateau where we need someone to take another look from a different perspective, I don't think that we'll get one.
Okay.
That's fair. You've got a workflow that works, and until it's not like getting the results that you guys want, it's no need.
There also aren't enough former players or enough money in the scene to get, like Charles was saying, the coaches that the players will respect.
Right.
Well, even if it's an unknown player, like I've never heard of Navi until he got on Dignitas, and the tryouts for coaches can do a lot. And if, like I said, if he assimilates well, if he gets along with the player as well, it may be an easy fit. But until the players actually want something, it's not use going out and saying, okay, we're doing tryouts for this thing that we don't really know if we want or not.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hit a couple of rumors high level. We're not gonna dig into all of them, only because they haven't been announced, and I'd rather let announcements come out. But it looks like GFE maybe picking up a couple of people on their roster and settling on 2 people from Flag F. Maybe bringing somebody back from retirement. Maybe picking up a Tempo Storm Warrior.
That's not, hypotheticals.
Hypotheticals.
Probably all of those things are happening.
Rosterpocalypse.
Drink.
Drink.
We really, I don't want to waste too much time on this just because it's all rumor. There's like rumors abound by.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yep.
Rumors, yes, but I want to mention this, and I threw it in the show notes for a reason. I don't know who Z33 is, but dude did his homework.
So,
like, to pull the curtain back, like people like leaking roster stuff. Like, I randomly got a DM from something from an egg that had never tweeted before and had 2 followers, that gave me every single roster change for both regions that was known at the time, and every single one of them was correct. So, like, leaks in video games and in esports, a lot of the time are pretty accurate. If 3 of them in a post are accurate, most likely the rest of them are.
Right. Well, and Jay Street supposedly getting a spot, maybe with Superstars. Or not Superstar, Space Station Gaming, rather. Leon Black, maybe getting a spot. Superstars, like, no, nothing has been confirmed yet, and that's the important thing. Like, we need confirmation to be out. But if we go with the leaked information, Cawthon not being on a team kind of surprises me. He was a great player. I expect him to land somewhere, and getting left out is crazy to me.
Well, there's only so many spots, man.
I know. Well, it's the same
and
issue
to be
you have
fair,
going on with other players, right?
He's no spring chicken.
I mean, I hope that anyone who didn't make a team just forms a super open team and blows up whoever's in 8th place.
Hey, listen,
because that will light a fire. I mean, I think that definitely will light a fire under everybody.
The model for success is there, right? So Heroes Hearth is in. They a couple of guys that missed out on getting into phase 2 did just that, and they blew EID away, man. Like,
oh, they looked dominant during that. Yeah, there was yeah, that was I still put forward that Heroes Hearth could have taken out Lag F, but
probably
like why not take the smart money, right? Yeah, okay. All right. I'm going over show notes here, and you had a lot of questions that we were going to go over with Yipos, but I think we covered like all of them.
No, we did. We can skip right past them.
Oh, did we?
We did. Yeah. Good. So, yeah, I don't know how much that's good, though, because now we're down to the interview section where Bahgz asks you even more questions.
Chat, what questions you got?
Yes, chat also. Chat, throw us questions. I've been trying to work them in where I can, but yes, definitely throw them in. Chat, if you tag LiQuidGG, it will help me make sure that we get them asked. And also, Bahgz, like, go ahead. You can start asking.
The interview questions?
Yeah, that's where we are.
All right, let's do it. Well, Charles, I wanted to get you on here. You are the manager for Roll20, which is, I wouldn't even say arguably, it's just a fact, the most popular team in NA. And you guys had some big changes in the offseason here, so I wanted to get you on and discuss some of that, which we did. But mostly, now that you're here, I kind of want to share. I want to, find out your story and kind of share that with the internets if you're cool with it. So, what got you into Heroes and Esports, man? Heroes Esports.
So, I started playing at the end of Alpha. At the time, I was probably playing a game called WildStar, which is a MMORPG. It's like an action RPG.
It was supposed to be a WoW killer, and
yeah, it didn't really do too well. It went free to play at one point. I don't think any MMO is going to really kill WoW. I think we're going away from it. But I wanted something that didn't take up 7 hours a day, which unfortunately this game still takes up 7 hours a day. Yeah, so played in beta, was a Zagara main, Zagara Brightwing main, and that kind of brought me to rank 1. Once I got to rank 1, I met up with Justin and Bahgz, and they kind of dragged me along with them, and we did some team league, and we did all the fun stuff, just kind of trashing nerds in Hero League and team league when it was duos.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I started, and since then I just hung around, and anytime Justin and Bahgz made a team, like they started with THC, Team Higher Consciousness, which was really cool because their idea was to put the players first, which is actually like a really good idea because a lot of, as you see with Naventic and these other teams that screw their players out of money, and especially like with Roll20, like they're one of the best orgs when it came to taking player input and that kind of thing. So that's one of the reasons that we went with them over any other org. Now, as far as managing, I didn't manage until THC had to change their name to TNC because THC is not a family-friendly term.
With a player called Bahgz.
The player called Bahgz.
The player called Bahgz.
Yeah. So they changed the TNC and they went to DreamHack. I didn't get to go to that one, but the next one they qualified for was the regionals at Burbank. So their manager at the time wasn't able to go to any of those. So I ended up starting to go to the LAN events with them and being their water boy, being their manager, kind of making sure they're all up in the morning, making sure they're on time, making sure that all kind of stuff.
So I guess that segues into my next question. What are your responsibilities for Roll20? Like, what do you do for them? Besides get them to come before the storm on time, which I got to see firsthand.
I slowed that down a little bit, but that's okay. I'm still proud of that.
So my responsibilities, I schedule their scrims. I deal with all their travel. Like right now, I've been interfacing with the Gold Club personnel, making sure that all the visa stuff is in, making sure that the flights are in. So we had an issue where flights are going to be too early. We're trying to ask for changes. I do all that conversation bit. And then I also interface with Roll20 when we were working on our sponsorship. I wasn't the one who went out and grabbed it. They reached out to one of the players, and then they forwarded it to me. But I dealt with all of the nonsense piece of it until we were ready to, get an offer and sign with them.
Sounds like you do all the work, and all I get to do is play video games and get the glory.
Yeah,
that's what a manager is.
Yeah,
dude, that's
literally the definition of a manager.
That's what you do. I don't manage an HGC team, but yes, that is how it works, dude.
So now at events, I will do basically anything. Not anything. Don't get me wrong. So, if they're during scrims and they need food or something, I'll go grab food. If food's about to end, I'll go get boxes of food, bring them over. Water, if media wants to talk to them and it's not the right time, I'll reschedule. Basically, I try to be the focal point or interface between everybody and them so that they don't have to worry about anything.
So what he's trying to tell us, Bahgz, is that when we want to get a player on the show, he's the man we got to talk to.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Right.
Good to know. The next thing I wanted to ask you, so have you been to BlizzCon before? Was this your first BlizzCon?
So I went in 2015 when C9 won, and that was my first BlizzCon. And then
mine too.
Yeah. So that was really fun. That's when Cho'Gall came out, which was pretty exciting because I got to be the body and my wife was the head, and he definitely died a lot.
That was it's funny you say that. That was the BlizzCon I got my girlfriend to play Heroes, and it's been history since then. Yeah. I ended up buying her a laptop, spending some buco bucks on something, and now we can play Heroes together.
I've built her a PC, and it's now my TeamSpeak server.
Wait, I gotta ask you that. So around the edges, I hear that you guys all use TeamSpeak, and why?
So TeamSpeak, we use it for voice comms because Discord, if you invite somebody, they can come whenever they feel, and TeamSpeak, I can just change the password whenever I want.
Okay.
And I can customize it and put our banner up and that kind of stuff. And
okay.
Give permissions. I don't know. We like it separate.
Well, before we drift away from BlizzCon too much, what was that experience like for you and the team?
Stressful.
I couldn't tell.
No, it was a lot of fun. I think that the group stage was great. I think that the format could have been better. I think that they should have done the round robin again.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I think a lot of us agree on that. I think
the experience of playing on stage was pretty phenomenal, and the production was on point for the most part.
I meant to sit by you guys. Over there was on the red side, but I never made it, so I apologize for that. But yes, I could definitely understand how it would be stressful, and I'll be honest, I could kind of see it when you guys got to Calm Before the Storm and you were trying to shepherd everyone into the signing table and stuff. You could tell you were a man on a mission. So hats off to you. I'm sorry we slowed you down. By the way,
there's a limited time for everything, and unfortunately, everything was so unpredictable. The first day of practice in the practice area at BlizzCon, none of the computers worked, the internet was out, so we lost an entire day of practice. So it's unpredictable stuff like that would come up every day.
And they didn't show that in the HGC Oracle videos.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they didn't show that. It's not.
You mean it wasn't just everybody getting along together the whole time?
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a lot of fun, but there was definitely some stuff that they didn't show. It wasn't a big deal, but obviously it's stressful because you can't control everything.
No, for sure. I get it. Listen, man, the reason why the expression "I love it when a plan comes together" is an expression is because it rarely happens. Let's be real. Could you kind of like go into a little bit like so going into the single elim tournament with the best of 3, you guys had a really tough draw and that you had to go up against the defending champs and Ballistics. Are you able to go into a little bit of a detail about you guys' plan for that matchup?
So our plan was obviously we had unorthodox strategies that had been planned and we got what we wanted for the most part. I think on the Tomb, I don't think we got everything we wanted. So that was kind of a wrench. And I think that we got everything we wanted on the towers. We just didn't execute. And obviously we didn't adjust, which is, it's whatever. I mean, stuff happens. And I think I'd rather have them go with what they had planned than, and
LiQuiuD was sitting next to me in the front row, and that's what I said. Like when everyone was kind of like questioning it, I said, I think they just had a plan. There was like plan A.
I'd rather them go with that than go with something else and fail even worse. You know, what if they got 40-0'd, whatever it may be. Right.
I get it. Like
I don't know.
It happens to me, like, if this is a small analogy, it's not probably not the same thing, but it happens to me a lot in Hero League. Like, I'll say, like, you know, this character's this be really good right here, but I'm like, but I've only got like 3 games of experience on my character. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's better to just kind of lean on what you know.
Right. So I mean, the Vikings thing, everyone wants to know why Vikings, because that's what they had practiced. You know, like that's all there is to it. I mean, they thought that they could outplay, and obviously that wasn't the case.
Unfortunately, they probably didn't. I guess you guys didn't get your hour-and-a-half practice that week.
That was a rough match to watch. Like as a fan,
trust me. I was in the front. I was in the front seat with my face in my hands the entire game. It was the most stressful thing to watch for me.
Right.
So I can understand why fans are upset and like who made the call. It's Justin made the call. He was the drafter, and we went with what we wanted to do, and it didn't work out. But now we have a plan to win this year. You know, that's
awesome.
It's going to make you stronger, and it's going to make you be able to think in those high pressure situations.
Right.
This is probably a good opportunity to throw that out there because there was a lot of misinformation on Reddit. Justin, what was it, after the midseason brawl, became the full-time drafter and shot caller for the team?
Yeah, so like I was saying, like we had issues at midseason brawl, and that kind of led to the transition of drafting to Justin, and then over time it was shot calling to Justin. And obviously, as you guys saw, it definitely made us go, win the second half, right? We went 21-1 in the phase 2.
It was fantastic. I'll say this for the guy. Besides sharing a name with him, he's my favorite player. Like Team Freedom's my favorite team, but Justin has become my favorite player, not just because he makes flashy plays, but I do follow him on Twitter, and just the stuff he tweets out really rings true with me. Like
you hate cheese.
We hate cheese. Both follow Coach Quotes and retweet it occasionally, but he's like, he comes off as, and I don't know him personally. Like the conversation I've ever had with Justin was, "Hey Justin, my name's Justin," and that was like the end of it. Can you sign my T-shirt? But he comes off as a very humble guy, very hardworking guy, very a guy who confident in his ability, but I don't want to use the word cocky because he's not. And just very willing to put his nose to the grindstone and put the work in and learn from an experience like this. And the first thing he tweeted after BlizzCon was over is like, "We are winning BlizzCon 2018," and that's the mindset you need to have. Like he's so.
I mean, we track all of our drafts. We have spreadsheets dedicated to every single team, strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and we definitely build every scrim block. We have a goal set out to accomplish, whether it be trying pairs, trying individual heroes, or trying certain players on certain heroes.
So I have a question about that. The person tracking all the tendencies and all the weaknesses and strengths, who's tracking all that stuff?
So Goku does the scrim draft tracking.
Okay.
Justin works on obviously he does like the what do we want to try, what do we need to practice, and then everybody gives input on what we want to draft and what are our strengths, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Cool, because like the stats nerd in me loves that side of the game.
You haven't seen spreadsheets until you've seen drafting prep spreadsheets.
I'm like, I kind of want to see those, man. Like, that was leading into my. Can I see them? I want to. I'm always interested. I was supposed to go see Gilly's Notebook, but then I didn't have a chance in day one, and I was like, all right, it's cool. I'll get it in day two. And then, of course, she cast the finals, and Haldor lifted her up one-armed onto the stage, and I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna bug her. I will just check it out later. But yeah, I'm like, I am enamored by casters' notebooks and like team spreadsheets and things like that, because just the idea of all the information that people are tracking in order to be better at tournaments, it's always been highly fascinating to me.
I mean, it's definitely a lot of work. We've got like 50 different tabs that I have to continually clean up because they scatter everything.
Right. I think, was that all your questions, Bahgz?
Just as far as in relation to BlizzCon, the only thing I wanted to talk about now is kind of like the transfer periods, and kind of get your thoughts on this, Charles, as you're so kind of like plugged into this. Like, what are your thoughts on them? Like, as far as how phase 1 went, how phase 2 went, what changes could they make that to improve upon it? What do you like? Kind of what go on that? Dive into that. And Trent, I want to get your thoughts as well. So both of you, if you want to chime in.
So I think the phase 1 transfer, I think Blizzard learned from, especially considering we had to make a decision and submit it before we even went, and that means we had to tell our player before we even went that he wasn't going to continue afterwards. And I think that they may have taken that into account because it seems like next year is starting a little bit earlier. And then the second one, I think that phase 2 transfer is perfectly timed. However, for anybody going to Gold Club, especially for us, we had to make our decisions prior to, because we had to submit our rosters for Gold Club, which is
stressful.
It's bad and good at the same time. Yeah. Because we were forced to make a decision. But then again, we went to BlizzCon and our players knew, Priz knew that he wasn't going to play again with us.
Do you think that there's a way for that to happen after BlizzCon, or do you think that's not, like, all the other teams would be making their moves before you even got back?
So the only reason we started before was because Glau was leaving, right? Mm-hmm. And we had, like I said, we had reached out to Dansky, and got him on board, and then the other one was like a really difficult decision. But I think that it's just really hard. The only team that it really affects, I guess, if someone is planning to leave that far in advance, you really can't stop it, right? It's better to know ahead of time than not. But in 2018, they have poaching rules in place. Actually, they have poaching rules in place like 2 weeks ago, which they just implemented, right? So us reaching out to Dansky wasn't considered poaching at the time. And I'm not sure that how they would rule on that, because essentially Glau would have been poached as well. Right.
So we should probably, because I've seen that word used a lot, and it's a very loaded word, so I think we have to be careful, like people in the chat and people on Reddit, like poaching is a very, very specific thing that there are rules against in every sport. And in Heroes right now, the poaching rules are not amazing to my knowledge, but if there are not rules against you talking to players on another team, it's not poaching. Like if there was no rule saying that Cattle couldn't look over his shoulder at Glau, and be like, hey, we need ramen, and also, do you want to come play on Tempo?
Right. So that's a very weird thing too, is because they worked on this. Obviously, they lived together, right? So, hey, Glau, you're having, after MSB, hey, Cattle, I hate my team. Can I come play for you guys? You know, and then at that point, things were rolling. Like there's no way to prevent that.
Yeah, which is another reason that everything should move to LAN and houses should be a thing, because then you can prevent some of that. But also, I think Blizzard now, the next step is to put more strict anti-poaching rules in place that have fines associated with them, bans associated with them.
They have a rule in place. I don't know how much I'm allowed to share for that, but they have rules in place now for poaching. That's going into the next season. It started with this roster swap period, and it's going from now on.
But it wasn't technically in place 3 months ago, so you couldn't.
Right, it wasn't technically in place before BlizzCon, which allowed us to do what we had to keep a team for Gold Club.
Right. Well, right. I've been complaining and asking on Twitter for a while now. They need to release the 2018 rules. They probably haven't finished them.
So we've got a summit coming up, and after that, you guys will all know about it.
I was just going to say that. I imagine after the summit.
Do we have the date for the summit that you can tell us?
Sophist in chat. Sophist, can I tell them?
Sophist is in chat. Can we find out the date of the summit, Sophist? That would be really helpful.
And we should say, because like I criticize Blizzard a lot because I think that's just one of my roles in the community right now. But I do think like the summit is one of the best things that Blizzard is doing, I think, as a leader in esports and as they're driving this esport. Getting all the teams together, being able to do some pre-production and as well get some feedback from people, have some direct conversation. I think the summit is a really great thing, and I think some good things will come out of this summit.
I love the summit. I was happy the summit happened last year. I'm happy the summit's happening again this year. When Bahgz and I have talked offline, I've said the rules won't be out until after the summit. But nobody's talking about the summit or the rules, right? So there's no dates. I mean, I'm sure people are internally, right? You have to be.
Indie Bear just confirmed in chat when the date is. It'll be sometime within the next 6 months.
So to go back to, I guess, how we acquired Dansky and Kira, we had to buy out their contracts for the remaining 2 months, right? So I had talked to their management as well as the team owner and discussed a buyout and coordinated that, and we ended up paying whatever amount for that.
Right.
So it wasn't like they cut their contracts and they're free to go. I mean, there's a process behind it, and I mean, essentially in the future, that's how it's going to be with team owners, managers talking to other team owners, managers, and deciding trades between the two.
Okay.
So yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I want to be so careful with the idea of poaching. Like it's not like Yitboss went over to Dansky's house and was like, "Hey, we'll give you this bag of cookies if you come play for us, but don't tell anyone."
I was just gonna use the Geico thing. I got you $1.
Yeah,
I got you $1. Come on.
Most of these roster changes are happening above board.
Right.
I think it's just that the community doesn't like roster changes, and so all roster changes are evil, especially when a team takes the best players from another team, which that's what's going to happen. When good players stand out, other teams are going to want them. Like you're going to see teams try and get Justing next season. They probably try. I don't know if you can talk about it, but I would imagine there were some offers for Goku and for Buds this offseason.
So Goku got interest. Justin and Buds, I don't think anyone reached out to them because they knew better.
Yeah. But yeah, I would imagine that Goku is going to get offers every time. I mean, Wubby probably got multiple offers from teams that weren't Dignitas. Anytime a player stands out,
right.
If Lauber goes into this season in EU and just absolutely wrecks everybody, he's going to get some DMs, and other teams are going to take him away, and that's going to be the right decision for him to make for his career. Because at the end of the day, you have to care about your career more than you care about your team. Because
you know what, I wanted to mention this earlier. Like, it's like in baseball, there's no salary cap. Obviously, in Heroes currently, there is no salary cap. It's like that's just how it works. The Yankees go out
salary bottom floor, or whatever you want to call it.
Right, the cap goes both ways, right? And it's non-existent.
So, and that's one thing we need to address at some point, is either get a players union to where, hey, sponsors, if you want to be involved, if you want a league, we need to be compensated to a certain extent, especially with, now there's team ownership, there's bits, there's all these things that are guaranteed exposure for these orgs, that there needs to be something in place.
Right.
So I guess the point I was trying to make is that, like, the Yankees and that now the Dodgers, now that they're owned by bazillionaires, these teams with, like, they can just throw money at players that shine on smaller market teams, and that's the same thing's going to happen here. Is you're going to get guys that come up and they're going to perform well on the A seed, and the bigger fish is going to eat the smaller fish. They're going to take they're going to take those players because they can.
Well, but that gets back into the point that we all want to see, is bigger orgs coming and spending money in here,
which we probably won't see till 2019.
Baby steps. We'll slow and steady. That's how we're going to get there.
Oh, let's see. All right, did you get through all this?
We got through all of it.
All right, awesome.
So there was one question in the chat asking what I do on the side, or I guess what I do full time.
Yep.
So I do cybersecurity consulting for my full time job.
Nice.
And
a fellow IT geek. I salute you.
Yeah. So basically, I go to companies, and depending on what they're looking to fix or what they're looking to implement, what kind of controls, I go and do an assessment and provide controls implementations.
Awesome. Nerd. I totally understood all of that, but that is because my job means I need to understand all of that. So there you go. All right, let's jump into... So I've had a couple of people ask this question, and we're going into the Gold Cup World Championship preview anyway. Let's jump into this. So,
all right,
little preview. We've covered all we're gonna cover for. I'm out of beer, but Rosterpocalypse.
Oh, I got 2 more.
Drink.
I will drink my water. I have finished 4 already, and that's all I brought down with me. So that's what I'm going with.
This is a good show.
This is a great show. All right, so $300,000 on the line starting next week on November 27th, which is next Monday. We have group stage November 27th through December 3rd, and then playoff stages December 6th through the 10th with 8 teams. We have KSV Esports, which was MVP Black, Ballistics, Fnatic, Dignitas, Roll20, Super Perfect Team, CE, and Beyond the Game. How do you guys, specifically you, Yip Boss, how do you feel that, because this is the question that has come up a lot, Roll20 stacks up going into China, and what are your expectations?
So I think that China's going to be great because they're in their home turf. They got their crowd of whatever million, I don't even know how big this arena is, but it looks gigantic, and I feel like it's going to be packed. Right? They're going to have the home crowd. Everyone else is going to be out of their comfort zone. So I think that China is actually going to do well, especially with new rosters.
Okay.
Europe, Korea's obviously the same rosters. And we haven't heard anything yet about that. I think that us and the EU are essentially wild cards. Okay. I can't really put a placement on it. I think that we're stronger than we were before. And I don't know, Keldor, maybe you can shine some light on Europe. How does Fnatic and Dignitas look?
I'm betting that it'll be. I'm very curious to see China because this is one of the reasons I like Gold Club so much is because we have the visa issues we do with China coming to BlizzCon. It's really interesting to see how they stack up when they actually get to have their whole roster together. Because we as fans that don't watch China HGC, I have no clue how good China is. There's no way for me to properly analyze a Chinese team because I've never seen them play as an actual full 5-man roster.
Full roster. Against outside of Chinese teams, right? I'm looking forward to this because I was a big believer in SPT going into BlizzCon, and I was still hopeful for them, even though they didn't have their roster coming into at BlizzCon itself. And then the roster wasn't good enough, and I get it. But I'm excited for this because we'll finally see Chinese teams playing, in China.
I think it's personally I think it's safe to say that the Chinese teams with all the things that they're going to have in their favor, like they're going to have their full roster, they're going to be playing in front of a home crowd. It's going to add up, and I think they're going to show really well. I don't want to be like the Debbie Downer, but I don't know if the Western teams are going to show as well as they did at BlizzCon.
I think Roll20 is a better roster, straight up. Like, I'm annoyed that Charles is here because I can't gush as much as I want to, but I legitimately believe that Roll20 won.
I don't actually do anything, so you can go ahead.
But like legitimately, I think Roll20 had the best offseason of any team. They have the best tank, the best support, and the best solo laner in North America already, and they got a better, more static ranged carry and an incredibly flexible, driven player with upside and dance speed. I genuinely think that this is the best roster possibly that North America has ever seen.
Oh.
And it's like
honestly, no, I agree with that statement 100%. I just don't know how. I mean, I think China's going to look a lot, and they were competitive at BlizzCon, mind you, like to a degree. Like I think they're going to look a lot better at home. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think that they'll like. I don't think that you guys will take the whole event. I think it would be unrealistic to bet on that. But I think that of the teams that we don't know a ton about, Roll20 is going to look really promising. And if Roll20 doesn't beat Fnatic and Dignitas at this event, then I think it says something about how terrifying the new Fnatic and Dig rosters are, because I really have high hopes and expectations for the Roll20 roster at the event.
And it's going to come down to how much time they have together, right? Like if you consider then they have another month after GCWC to get more on the same page and then dominate their regions at that point.
So the best part about this is that we're going in and people shouldn't expect us to win the entire thing, right? And I think that gives us power because regardless of how we do, we're going to have better practice than scrimming North American, no offense, teams.
No, 100%.
And I think that we'll come back and, I do extremely well in the region and then go back to the next event and have that synergy and do extremely well.
Okay.
I think the best measuring stick is the EU teams made big changes, so it'll be nice to see how you guys compete with them. I agree with Trent wholeheartedly, like, and it's not just because you're here. Like, I think this is probably the best roster NA's ever seen. And like, Tempo Storm, they put the brand names together, but that doesn't really mean anything to me. I want to see quality and substance, and I think that's what we're going to find with Roll20. So, not a professional. So take my opinion with a grain of salt.
Can we talk about super teams now?
We're almost there. I promise. We're almost there.
No one cares about Nexus Games.
No, but I have to. Okay, like
no one cares about Nexus Games.
We're very big proponents of amateur esports here.
Plus, I made this sweet bumper. We have to play it.
Oh, I don't have your bumper, bro. Sorry.
Oh, I made it like a month and a half ago.
Even your own show doesn't care about Nexus Games.
Next week, I promise. Because we'll have to go over Nexus Games anyway next week. But we super care about amateur, so we're gonna breeze through it pretty quick because we are running a little bit long at this point. Nexus.
Cool. We started early.
Nexus Games Europe. They're going right now. Group stage group stage is still going.
Group stage concluded, actually.
That's what I thought, but your dates. Oh, I can't read, man. I can't read. All right, group stage just finished. Actually, they've been great games. I've enjoyed watching them. I've been sitting on the couch with my wife during the day watching them. Definitely check them out. The top two teams from each group are advancing into the playoffs. Playoffs start next week on November 25th and 26th. Single elimination, all best of fives. Definitely check them out. They've been a fun set of games to watch.
It's got some former pros playing.
Yep.
Now that they're amateurs, it's nice.
And where else are you gonna see freaking Haunted Mines and Blackheart's Bay in competitive?
Where would
That
you
sounds
want
awful.
to see them?
That sounds awful.
Oh my god, it was so much fun. I can't even explain
the fans
it.
pick the maps. The fans have spoken.
You shouldn't ever trust fans to pick anything. Fans don't know what's happening.
If I had my way, every match would be played on Warhead Junction.
It's been so,
They should play
it's
not
so
allowed to be
fun.
in charge.
They should just play Nexus Games on the PTR so that it's completely wild.
Then it's completely crazy. That
Just
would,
lean
that would be
into it.
insane.
Yeah.
All
They're
right.
gonna go with those maps. They may as well go on PTR and add Hanamura too.
So
Literally, the second that Blackhearts is in a map pool, it's not a real competitive event.
all right.
We
Fair
should
enough.
also mention that this is this is Bakery's introduction to being third guy.
That's true. That's true.
Sixth
Caldor.
guy?
Oh, shots fired, Caldor. Only map NA can win. Ouch. All right. Look, yes, those Black Hearts and Haunted Minds have no place in true professional play, right? Okay. But as a viewer, having Black Hearts and Haunted Minds is like super unique to me, and I totally dig it. And the playoffs are this weekend. So definitely check out the playoffs this weekend. Because they are awesome. Like, they have been so much fun to watch.
Should mention which teams
Who's
made
gonna
it.
win? Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
have
tell me
it
who you
up,
care
'cause
about,
I'm like
'cause I haven't
totally.
watched
Yeah, I haven't watched any of it.
I'm failing at my job. Hold on.
Maybe your own show doesn't care about Nexus Games.
Literally failing at my job right now.
Well, I mean, it's Europe, so who really?
There it is.
I'm like,
It's a different time zone. It's already done by the time.
right? It's rough
Yeah.
to try and like to catch it all because it starts at like 2 PM here or something bizarre like that.
Nonsense.
And of course, I don't have the stupid Blizzard. Why do you make this so hard sometimes? All right, I'm just gonna tell you guys that you have to watch the Nexus games because I can't even pull up. Blizzard's not even letting me see the stupid bracket. So
I've got
a
a-
call today.
I can.
Tell us who's gonna win.
I got.
Nexus
Listen
Games.
here.
So
I got.
fair
I'm gonna
team.
link it. I'll link
Okay.
it. I got you, buddy. I got
You got
buddy.
me? Thank you,
Yeah,
buddy.
it's hopping in chat right now.
Awesome.
Boom.
Yeah, you
There's
got
your
my
bracket.
back. Oh my god,
My
I
vote-
should have went to Team LiQuiud first. That would
Let's
have
just
All right.
skip this whole piece.
No, we can't skip. We're gonna finish it. You
All right,
got
quick predictions. I pick Russia.
France, Hungary.
Czech Republic.
I'm going with Sweden.
No, there's no way. The Czech Republic's out. They're out.
Oh,
Sweden,
damn it.
Netherlands, in the top bracket, and then you got Poland, Russian, Germany, Italy. The problem is Germany's playing with a sub this weekend, so I got to go Russia the whole way at this point.
Russia's. I know that Russia is beasting people, so they're gonna win the whole thing.
Right.
$5 on it.
They lost to Sweden,
I'll take that.
so they've already lost to Sweden in the group stage. It's Sweden or bust. It's the best. It's the best heroes country in the world.
All right.
All the good Swedes are already in the HGC.
Now let's be honest.
They're just
Caldor's-
pumping them out like a factory, man.
Caldor is saying Poland's going to do extremely well. And if there's anybody in chat whose opinion I would take on an EU-focused tournament, it's probably Caldor. So there you guys
He's
have
giving
it.
them all the strats that he learns from the pro teams.
Right? Like, that's how it's working out.
It's
Ooh,
all
that's
who
a
you know
really
in
good question.
esports. And if you know Caldor, then you win.
I'm saving that question unless you answer it right now. I love that question. All right. So let's jump last amateur thing. Not to be confused with the EU Nexus Games. We have the Nexus Gaming Series here in NA, which is wrapping up right now. They finished Division B and Division C this past week, and the Division A finals are this weekend. Division C, Duraton's Couch won overall for Waifu. Division B, Alaska beat Order of the Sleeping Dragon, and Division A is going to be Team Cynics versus TMG Red this weekend. Check that out. That'll be a good set of games too. Cynics looks to be dominant, but we'll see if TMG Red can do anything special and get in there and maybe take a win off of them. All right.
I love amateur esports team names.
Aren't they great?
They're one of my favorite things.
All right, so here we go.
Yes.
Super teams, because I know Trent's dying to talk about super teams.
Let's
Well,
get
I'm really,
educated.
I always as a young boy who followed traditional sports closely, I always got kind of like super hyped for like these super teams, like the 2007 Patriots when they picked up like Randy Moss and Wes Welker, and they just went bananas on the league until they lost to the Giants. Like stuff like that, just I don't know, it engrossed me. Like I think I caught the games like every week, and I don't like the Patriots. When LeBron went to the Heat with Chris Bosh and Wade, like that was huge to me. I followed that very closely because it just, I don't know, I latch on to it.
You're talking about sports ball right now?
Yeah, sports ball.
Oh no, we're bleeding viewers.
Oh, that's how I ended up here. Like, I mean, I don't know. That's how I got my interest in esports. I was like, I combined two passions of sports and video games. So, I guess my question on the discussion is like, what makes a super team? Is it like top 3 players at a specific role all just kind of like coagulating into this ooze of super team, or is it like kind of like maybe the way Tempo went, where they just get these giant brand names and throw them together to win some championships? Like, how does that work? What do you think?
I feel like GFE made this term, right, because of what they did last season. They took K1 and CAF, who were world champions at some point, and added them to Fan, who was a world champion at some point, and with 2, other players, it feels like this team should have done really, really, really well. But with that, I mean, you can't force players to work well. So names, I think big names essentially make a super team. If you've got a huge following and you're expected to do really well, then you are considered a super team.
So go ahead, Trent.
The name super team, actually, the first place I heard it was, weirdly enough, in League of Legends. And I know, it's crazy. And kind of what makes a super team to me is sort of what GFE did, but it's more the idea of building a team that starves other teams of high-level talent. So to use the League of Legends example, Alliance was really the only true super team that we saw in early League of Legends, because it was Froggen and Wicked from Evil Geniuses, who were one of the best mid laners in the world and a top 3 top laner. They took a upcoming free agent jungler from one of the lower tier teams, who was one of the highest rated free agents of that season. They took an AD carry from another team that would have been one of the highest rated free agents of that season, and then they got one of the most veteran supports in the league. And every single one of those players would have been a get for any other team.
Yeah.
It would have been an upgrade for basically any other team. And they all decided to get together and form a team together to basically try to out-execute everybody else. And it sort of worked in Europe, but then it didn't work on the international stage, which is why I think really the only super team that came out of this Rosterpocalypse drink is the Tempo one, because it's not a team that was built on system or on design. It's a team based on names getting together, and that's why I don't think it'll work internationally, because we've seen other examples. Like, it just takes time for a team like that. Like, you use the Miami Heat example. I think that's a great traditional sports example. Like, everyone was thinking that they were going to win 7 in a row because they had so much talent. And it took, 3 years before they got a ring?
No, it took one. They lost to the Mavericks that first year. Yeah, they lost the first year to the Mavericks in 6. That first year, that team came together, and then they came and took the league by storm. They won the next 2. They went to a third one, but they lost. So they came back, beat a young Oklahoma City Thunder team. Then they won back-to-back chips by winning a crazy 7-game series against a really good Spurs team off of Ray Allen's miracle shot. And then they were beat by that same Spurs team the next year, and then they broke up. And LeBron's been to every finals since he went to Miami, actually.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of
way too much sports ball for me.
Yeah,
sorry, man.
I don't understand it. I'm drunk.
That to me, super teams have a potential. I think the advantage of a super team is that it starves other teams of talent. So you just kind of have more of the stuff than other teams have. And so in a lot of situations, you can just outplay other teams because you basically took the pieces that would have made them competitive against you. However, in North America's case, Roll20 is just a better, like, nobody got the best tank. Nobody got the best solo laner in North America because those guys were already on Roll20, and then Roll20 upgraded their other spots. So no other team that's trying to form a super team is going to be able to work. I think it could have worked in Europe if a bunch of the pros had gotten together and decided to form a roster together. Like if Wubby had decided, you know what, I'm sick of all these other blonde dudes. I want some different things happening in my team, and I'm going to grab Mene from Dignitas, and I'm going to grab, you know, Bad Benny to be my tank, and I'm going to get all these other pieces together and reduce the strength of every other team by taking all of their pieces. I think we could have seen a promising super team, but I don't think I would call any of what we've seen so far in Europe, because really there were only two teams that could have been super teams in Dignitas and Fnatic, and both of them got really good players. Like they still have.
How do you become more super duper when you're already kind of super, right? Like.
I think really the only team that you could really call a super team in this Rosterpocalypse is the Tempo team.
I'm going to disagree to a degree. I think Roll20 would also classify as this, and only because, like, so to me, Tempo is like a brand name super team. Like those, yes, they're all very good players, but those are also like, those are some of the players with the biggest brands in HGC. When you look at Glau, Psalm, and Fan, right? When you look at Roll20, you're looking at top 3, top 2 players at their position in NA, all on that team.
Yeah, that's the way they already were a super team by that definition, and they upgraded.
So that's what I mean. So I think it's the answer is probably what makes a super team is probably a little bit of both. But in Tempo's case, those are the teams to me that are really, and maybe you can probably elaborate on this a bit in a second here, but those are the teams that really, really drive, in my opinion, viewership. Like they're extremely polarizing. Like people want to watch this Tempo team and see what it can do, because on paper it's like, damn, right?
Well, I've seen people tweet, like, because I manage the Roll20 Twitter, right? And I see people tweet like, oh, the only reason I watched you guys was because of Glau. I'm like, well, you're going to be really sad because you're not going to be watching us. You know, like, that's got to be bad to just watch a team for one person. You know,
so I started watching Roll20, well, Team 8, because of Glau. In fact, I was very anti-Team 8 at the beginning until Chu left. And then I was very pro-Team 8 because, like, here they are, they qualified. Chu was like, yeah, I'm out. And then they had to get Prismat, right? So it was very, like, hit or miss. But then I started following the team because of Glau and the story behind them, and fell in love with the team, right? Fan is still my favorite, probably NA player to follow. And then closely after that is, like, I would say, like, that's my tier S. And then I have Glau, Fury, and Justing on my next tier down.
Well, I'm saying after an entire season, right? And then the roster swaps come up, right? And then that's the thing you tweet at a team is, the only reason I followed you is because of one player. It's like, if you watched this the entire season, we would have hoped you would have followed for more than just one player. You know, like, you should love a team for the team, not just for the superstar. Right?
And I think
agreed.
I think that's also something that you and I have talked about before, is one of the complaints we have with the way that Blizzard is doing their storytelling. The only story they've told about Roll20 is Glaurung the whole season. Like, if you're a casual watcher of HGC, you probably think that Glaurung is the reason Roll20 wins. And that's why we're seeing people now, like, having concerns, and why everyone wants to know, why did you get rid of Glaurung? He was your whole team. Because that's what Blizzard has told everybody. In the storytelling, he's the one that got interviewed. He's the one that's in every single HGC Oracle thing. He's the one that's talking through the entire Roll20 intro video for BlizzCon. Like, his is the only story that we've been told the whole year. So if you're a casual guy that watches, like, the extra stuff around HGC, the only name that you know on Roll20 is Glaurung. And I think that's something that Blizzard is really going to have to do a better job of next season, is finding, like, there's so many stories. Goku has an awesome story to tell if someone would actually tell it.
Well, I think it's important to note that there's a difference between what they highlighted and building a story around a whole season. Because chat's like, well, they talked about this and they talked about that and they talked about this and they showed us videos about it. Ignoring they told us things about players. They didn't. We've talked about this on the show before with Trent. One of the ways you suck people in and get people to watch is building a story about an entire team and really, like, not this player plays really good at this role, but if you look at some of the Oracle stuff, I feel like the Oracle series, they did a good job of that, but it was during BlizzCon week, right? Like, how at this point it's too late. You need an Oracle type content the entire season to build that story around all of the teams and around all of the players on the team. And it's a struggle to do that, but honestly, that's where you build that story, and that's how you build that story. And hopefully they take the Oracle and they make it larger and tell that story.
And let's be fair, like, I just want to say, like, when Roll20's pub stomping people come phase 1 in 2018, I think that perspectives will change.
Right.
Well, yeah, obviously, to comment on what Chad is saying, like the Roll20 thing before BlizzCon did talk a little bit about Goku's story, but if you go back and watch that whole video again, it's a very, very small portion of that video is focused on Goku and his story with his brother and his drive. That is an entire 10-minute piece. That's an entire interview. That there's so much meat there just talking about his drive to be the best. And they gave you a taste of that. And because you've gotten so little from the HGC in terms of that content from people not named Glaurung, it seemed like a lot. But if you go back and watch it, it's a very, very small percentage of that video. And what I want is that kind of content, like you said, throughout the whole year.
Right.
Where we talk to Goku about his drive, and then we talk to him about his brother, and then we talk to his family. Like, there's more story to tell there, and there's more story to tell earlier in the year so that I can watch these players grow throughout the season, connect with them more, follow them on Twitter, and not only get their story in small snippets right before the biggest event of the year.
Right.
I mean, I want to know Casanova's story.
So I think that what they need to do, post-game interviews, HGC every weekend, is do more of an in-depth interview of whoever's doing the post-game, right?
Yep.
They have that time instead of just saying, hey, you guys played really well. What did you think? So, do some more personal stuff there.
Yeah, I agree.
I just want them to follow. I mean, League of Legends worked for a reason. The LCS worked for a reason. When the LCS started, they hired 10 of us to write articles, and they paid each of us $200 an article to interview players, to find stories, and to educate the fan base about the people that they were watching. And on top of that, they did videos of getting to know these players, and Evil Geniuses brought a Boys and Girls Club in, and we're going to interview them about that. And these two guys are brothers, and we're going to do a video of them going and playing putt-putt. Like, all these things were super cheesy and a little bit cringe because it was early on. But you remember, I'm curious, anybody in chat remember the even his teacher calls him Zion Spartan video? Like, stuff like that stays with you. That video made made Darshan's career. Like, he's a good player, but that video made him a star in the league. Nobody knew his name before that video. And that's what I want. I want Blizzard, and I'm going to try and do it to a degree with my blog, but I want Blizzard to really put an emphasis on making stars out of the humans, not just the players. I don't just want Mene's Kael'thas guide. I want to know what Mene's top 5 animes are. Like that's the kind of content I want.
Yes, like the K-pop article.
Yes, that kind of content is what drives esports. It's about it's about human stories. The reason we watch sports is not really for the sports. It's for the human stories of real people. Anytime you go see a movie, you know that to a degree it's fake. Even when you watch something that's based on a true story, you know to a degree that it was embellished, it was exaggerated. But when you watch sports, when you watch Brett Favre play the game of his life the day after his dad dies or whatever, like that's a real human story. When you watch like pro players that were kicked off of a team come back and defeat the team that got rid of them, when you watch a player like Goku who's had so much hardship in his life and he's decided he's going to be the best because something else was taken from him, and he wants to prove that through hard work he can be the best player ever. Like, I want to watch that player succeed, not just because he lands all of his tongues on Dakahaka, but because I care about him as a person.
Right.
Sorry, I got preached.
No, that's a good point. Like when you are emotionally invested in the players, it's powerful, and it's certainly gonna it generates retainership, right? So
I think they'll do fine in 2018. They obviously know that things can be changed, so we'll be good.
Well, I think I agree. We're going to head in the right direction. They're going to make some adjustments. They're going to build on what worked. They're going to kind of scrap what didn't. It was the first season, and we don't really need to blow that out of proportion. And like, let's not forget that it was just the first season.
I want to blow it out of proportion so they hire me to write those articles.
Dilux, I'm coming for your job.
He can keep his job. He just also has to have me on board.
Right. I mean, all we need is another writer. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Trent, I wanted to ask you, if you could give us a history lesson from the LCS as far as like what kind of impact did super teams have on, and not just like competitively, like you mentioned, where it takes talent away from other teams, but like as far as viewership, because like in my experience, like I already alluded to it, super teams are really polarizing. So like there's players that want to see them run the gamut and just absolutely crush their opponents, and then you also get large portions of the fan base that just want to see them fail spectacularly. Like it's almost like I don't know, it's just like how we just like to see celebrities like crumble. I don't know, it's a weird thing. Like it's a weird dynamic that people have, but it's true. Like in the NFL, like I root for anyone who's playing against the Patriots. You know what I mean? Like that's just that's true though. So can you kind of like give me an example, like take me down memory lane?
So like I said, really the only true super team from early League of Legends was that Alliance roster. You know what? You shush. But I think, again, because League of Legends had done such a good job of creating, like, we knew these people, we knew their faces, we knew who they were, we knew what drove them. Like, people loved Froggen. I don't think there were many people that wanted Froggen to fail, and so because it was his team, everybody just wanted it to succeed. If it had been a player that started that team that wasn't as popular or well liked, it might have gone a little bit differently. That said, it did create an interesting rivalry where that super team formed because Evil Geniuses fractured into two teams, and so it created this really interesting, these three players stuck it out, wanted to stay together, and are trying to make a go of it to keep their legacy alive, and two players were like, screw you guys, I'm better than you now, I'm going to make my own team to win worlds. So it created this really interesting dichotomy there between the teams that kind of built things up organically and the team that said, you know what, no, we're just going to get all these players together to just try and win. And I think what it does is it creates a very binary success point. So if you get all these players together to win, if you don't win, your season was a failure. Whereas if you're an organic roster, like if you're Team Freedom, getting back to BlizzCon is going to be a success for most Team Freedom fans at this point, I would say. I mean, Bahgz, you can tell me if that's...
No, I agree. I don't like, I'm not going to be upset if they don't win BlizzCon next year. Like,
but if you're a Tempo fan, if they're not first place in the HGC in phase 1, if they're not taking names at the midseason brawl, you're going to have some feelings about that because they got all of these players together.
It's not even just going to be the Tempo fans. It's going to be the entire HGC fan base. Like, if that team isn't kicking ass and taking names, that's an issue, right? Because, like, look at the names on that team. They should. And obviously it's not that easy. But that's kind of what happens. Like, that's why, like, the Miami Heat will go right back to it. Like, that's why people just, like, bathed in the blood of that team losing, man. Like, when they lost to the Mavericks, like, everyone ate that up. ESPN started a whole section like of like the Miami Heat, the Heat Index, or whatever the hell it was called, when that team got together, because it generates that much interest. And I think we're probably going to see some of that come next year.
I feel like we've talked more sports ball tonight than we have in a long time.
I tuned out when you started talking about League of Legends. I don't know what was said for the past 10 minutes.
That's all right. All right, so, all right, I think we finished with everything. So I have 5 questions that I need to ask from chat, and then I think we can solidly say we've put the interview section or the discussion section to bed. Who is the dark horse in NA this season?
Oh crap.
So I'm going to give you a pause a minute.
We'll start with confirmed rosters here.
We don't know,
right? Without knowing all the rosters,
based on these totally not confirmed rosters, I think Space Station is a promising roster. HHE, like Heroes Hearth, I don't even know that I would call a dark horse. Like, these are really good players,
right? I totally expect more from HHE.
Yeah, I expect more from them. I expect them to be 4th or 5th. I don't know, Charles. You probably know.
My question is: can any of these teams that weren't in the top 3 that went to BlizzCon, can anyone knock Team Freedom, Tempo, or Roll20 out of like BlizzCon next year? I mean, I guess that's too far to say, but like, can anyone crack the top 3 coming out of phase 1? That's my question.
No.
Or is it going to be like?
No.
Okay, Trent's a hard no. Yeah, boss.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry.
Can any of the
my brain is slow.
That's okay. Can any of the non-top 3 teams crack the top 3 in phase 1?
Phase 1, part 1, no.
Okay. Okay.
What about going into the mid-season brawl, like these teams can't make roster changes type thing?
Maybe. I think that after the first phase, people can get the synergy, or teams can get the synergy where they can break through. If Tempo starts to perform poorly, or if any of us start to perform poorly, any of the teams have enough talent and dedication to make it in. Just like Europe. I mean, I think that we're definitely a lot better than we were last year. I think the entire region is.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And to say something that was... Oh, go ahead.
I think that because of the top 3 teams and how other teams are, how scrims are going, these other teams kind of realize that they have to put in a lot more work and they have to take it a lot more seriously.
Okay.
Yeah. To follow up on something that was said in chat, Imported beat Heroes Hearth in the Open Division finals of a not super great format where everybody was super tired and they got surprised by some stuff and then came back and handled their business in the Crucible, and Imported didn't. Heroes Hearth is a better team. Like, okay. They are straight up a better team.
Okay. So, all right, something's happening in chat right now. You just saying GCWC's on old patch, but the Blizzard article today said it's on Alex Straza patch.
It's on Alex Straza patch, not with the balance.
Okay. With or without the balance?
Without the balance. Without.
Awesome. So, like, as of, 2 weeks ago or a week ago? I think it was a week ago.
Patch 29.
Awesome. Okay. Nabby wants to know if he can have a onesie. I'm in favor of everybody saying yes, because Nabby in a onesie kind of makes me chuckle. Does anybody disagree with that?
Nabby, you can't. No, dude, that's my thing.
Oh, Dagger, no.
The onesie's my thing, man. I didn't even see. Where are you?
That's way up. I copied a bunch of questions out of chat as they went.
No, it's my thing.
All right, Nabby, I'm sorry, man. He says no. All right, Josh Shanice asked, what would be an alternative to the current Crucible situation where disbanding causes teams like EID and IS to get into HGC while failing to qualify themselves? Trent, I'm gonna give that one to you.
Can you type that one?
Yeah, say that again.
Okay, I will. I'm gonna type it into chat right now, just so because it's kind of a long one.
That is a long one. And I'm drunk.
Right, it's in chat.
Oh, so that's what team ownership was supposed to prevent. However, because LagForce didn't have a sponsor, if Naventic would have stayed in the scene, they would have owned the slot, right? So because they dipped out for whatever reason, obviously non-payment, they would have had the team, and then they would have. Two of those players would have stayed and rebuilt the team. I think that 2018 will be a little bit different. Imported Support will probably get a low-level sponsor. I think all teams will get at least a low-level sponsor.
Yeah.
Which will prevent a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not going to be a problem going forward, unless something really catastrophic happens where, like, again, another really shady organization comes in that doesn't pay. And hopefully at this point, between King of Blades, Naventic, and Playing Ducks, we've maybe learned our lessons about vetting organizations, and Blizzard now has a little bit more power. There's more benefit to getting a Heroes team, so you're going to get a slightly higher caliber of sponsor coming in. So I don't think that that's really something that I don't like the rule. I would rather see a qualifier happen, or if a team chooses to disband, that spot being bought by an organization that can then build a roster. I think there are better ways to do that make a more interesting league. Because, like, for me, there's always two sides of it. One side of it is the player side, where it's great that Imported Support gets this opportunity now. It's easier for Blizzard to just say, hey, this team that was already a team, come in and join the league, and
be a team. Yeah.
And be a team. But when literally this same situation happened in League of Legends, and yet Boss drank his beer, they had a 3-way qualifier. They played a round robin between 3 amateur teams to decide which team was going to get that spot. And now when a team fails or disbands or an organization leaves, they sell that spot to another organization who comes in and either buys those players' contracts or blows up the roster and builds their own roster. And I think that is a more healthy way to do it for the league, strictly because of making more competitive matches that are more interesting to watch. Even in Death was not particularly interesting to watch last season, just because they were outclassed. Like, they're all pretty good players, and each one of those players on a different team in a different situation. Like, we're going to see some stuff this season from one of them that could completely change our opinions, but that team was not in the same league as the rest of the league, as evidenced by their results. And I think Imported is going to be the same way. If it's not, then this whole last 5 minutes I've been talking is pointless, but you shut up. But I do think that is a better way. It's more it allows opportunities for other organizations to come in and create rosters, or to find an entry point that's secure for them. It allows for interesting new rosters to be created out of circumstances like that. And if they did a qualifier, like if LagForce disbands and the top 3 open division teams all play a qualifier now with their new rosters that they've made after the Crucible ended, I'd like to watch that. That's an interesting Saturday afternoon of Heroes to watch. I bet we could get some people to cast that. I bet J-How's available. I don't know. That sounds pretty cool to me. It seems better than, oh, hey, Imported's in now.
All right. We have 2 questions left.
Yeah, stop going on tangents. Jesus.
Yeah, Boss, specifically you, man. All right. There were Canadians on the roster, and Daz, co-host of the Nexus Trolls and fellow founder of Trolls GG, was sitting next to me, and he's a Canadian. And the crowd was chanting USA. USA over and over, and he was just screaming and Canada at the end of each of those. Did the team care? Did the Canadians on the team care? Was it just like the hype was real, it didn't matter?
I don't think it mattered. They can't hear what the words actually are. They just hear noise.
Okay. All right. And then last question. This is from Stack Pointer. Again to Yipboss. Why do you think Bud's Justin combo didn't break out until Team 8?
So the Bud's Justin combo.
Why weren't they considered best in the region before now?
Before now.
So I think that it takes time to prove yourselves, right? And until they were put on a team where they were, at the beginning of Team 8, they were seen to be, the bottom of the barrel, right? And then when Chue left, they're like, no. So Chue wanted to just do it for fun, and these guys were like, no, what? I want to play, I want to win, I want to be the best in the world. So they had something to prove after Chue left the team because, he didn't see anything, he didn't see any promise from these guys. So once they proved the entire scene wrong, then they had that, these guys are real, these guys are here to play. I think that means a lot. It takes that point in time where you show people what you're about. You can't just be the best.
Right.
I think Lutano can attest to that as well. And if Homicidal made it onto a team, he'll be saying the same thing.
Right.
Awesome. All right. I think that wraps up that piece. We do have one new feature that we're going to introduce tonight. I've been playing around with this for a little while, and we're going to do the first one tonight. And that is a featured help wanted section. We are both Bahgz and I are big proponents of coaches, analysts, managers, like anything to help a team get off the ground and do better. And so in that vein, a team reached out to me. That team is Order of the Sleeping Dragon. They did just finish second in Division B of the Nexus Gaming Series. They're looking to take Open Division more seriously this season, and they're looking for a manager and an analyst to help them kind of do that. Right now, their captain, Silent Shoe, is doing all of that at the same time, and he feels like he's not able to get out there and focus on what he needs to focus on so their team can get better. So you can tweet us, or you can hit him up in Discord directly if you want to. His name is in the show notes. I'm not going to try and talk to you guys about what his name is because that's just rough. But definitely check that out. And I'm going to be working on a feature on the website where we can track this kind of things. So if you're looking for a manager, an analyst, or a coach, it can be a pro team, but obviously it's probably going to be mostly amateur teams looking for it. Hit me up and we'll get that all squared away on our website. Cool. So we're done, guys.
It's over.
We went long. We went a bit long, but that's okay.
Just a little bit.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Trollin HGC, a weekly podcast about Heroes of the Storm Esports, a member of the Trolls GG Podcast Network. We stream live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TrollsGG, every week on Wednesdays, following the Nexus Trolls around 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. We will not be doing that this week. This is the show for both last week and this week. We will be back next week with some more news. Bahgz, where can people find you?
Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at BahgZ HGC. You can watch me stream on twitch.tv/Bahgz, where I stream pretty irregularly, but I always tweet it out so you can catch me then. As well, if you enjoyed tonight's show and are interested in Blizzard's other esports offerings, consider giving the weekly Blizzard subscribe on iTunes. My buddy Gwaz and I are old high school buddies. We go way back and we talk about all of Blizzard's esport offerings. He does most of the Overwatch stuff. I do most of the hero stuff, and then the other stuff we kind of tag team. So on that's where you guys can find me.
All right. Yipboss, shout outs. Where can people find you? All of that good stuff.
I have a Twitter at Yipboss.
Sometimes
it's right under his name there, guys, to make it easy. Or under his picture.
You can find me on LinkedIn under Charles Smunt. I'll type it in chat. If you guys are business people, hit me up. And this guy, GG86, has a question about Hero League in the amateur scene. I don't think that Hero League messes up the amateur scene, because if you're in the amateur scene, you should be scrimming and not relying solely on Hero League.
Definitely. I also think that performance-based matchmaking will help with that too. The Hero League problem, not necessarily, how do you break in. Cool. Trent, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter at Trent_Esports. You can check out my blog now at TrentEsports.com because I'm all official and junk. You will encounter, once people like Mupsio get around to freaking announcing their rosters, there will be way more Rosterpocalypse analysis and breakdown up there. You will also see me rant and rave about how Paladins is cool and Super Smash Brothers and all that stuff. I just like esports, so come talk to me about pretty much any esport, and I'll tell you my opinion about it because esports are cool.
Cool. And the best place to follow me is on Twitter at LiQuidGG. That's LiQiuDGG. I tweet whenever I'm about to do something interesting, or whenever these guys like post something that I think is really interesting you guys should read. I definitely retweet it and favorite it, so check me out there. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, you can support us in a variety of ways. We're on Patreon at patreon.com/TrollsGG. You can follow us on Twitter at Trollin HGC for show announcements and Heroes of the Storm news. Find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/TrollsGG, or subscribe to our show on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Make sure to tell us how you think we're doing by commenting on any of the aforementioned platforms or giving us a rating. Finally, you can visit our website, www.trolls.gg, to read our articles. We actually have writers now posting articles. Go check those out. Those guys are working hard. You can also catch up on our podcast or on-demand video. Finally, we're looking for a social media manager. You can DM me if you're interested. Thank you all for watching. We will actually see you in the Nexus.
Or will we?
I hope we will.
I don't actually play the game. I just watch it.
Good night, everybody.